Hi friends, today I'm going to show you how to make zuppa di polpetti di pollo. What is that? It's Italian for soup with chicken and meatballs, pretty basically. And you'll see from the title that it says wedding soup. So why is it called wedding soup? I'm from Northeast Ohio and I'm from Youngstown, but really all throughout Northeast Ohio and even a little south east there are a lot of Italians that live in Northeast Ohio. Matter of fact, southeast of where I'm from, about an hour and a half, is Steubenville and Dean Martin. Everybody knows who Dean Martin is. Well, that's where he was from. That's where my mom was born. And my grandfather went to school with Dean Martin. He knew Dean Martin. I don't want to say no because they both have passed away. But anyway, I'm from Youngstown, and the city of Youngstown, probably more than half of the population is Italian or Italian mix, like, you know, one parent is Italian, another parent is Irish, one parent is Italian, one parent is Polish, you know, that sort of thing. But anyway, at Italian wedding receptions, you know, whether you have several courses for your dinner, the Italians always made this soup with the chicken and the meatballs. And, you know, they'd serve this soup, sometimes maybe a salad, not always a salad, because Italians love their antipasta trays. And if you're Italian, you know what I'm talking about with that. So anyway, this soup was always served at wedding receptions. Therefore, it just got the name wedding soup, because for the Italians to say it, you know, zuppa di polpetti di pollo, you know, people are like, huh? So they just named it, you know, wedding soup. So that's what I'm making for dinner today, and I'm going to show you how I make my zuppa di polpetti di pollo. Okay, the first step in getting our soup going is you need either a roasting chicken, or you can get the chicken that's, you know, cut up already and use that. You can use 4 chicken breasts with the skins on. You know how they come in packages like that. You know, whatever you like to do, just make sure whatever chicken you're using, it has the skin on it, because you're going to want this to make a good chicken broth. And sometimes I boil the chicken when I'm kind of in a rush, but you can always roast it, which is actually better to roast it, I think. The meat is a little bit more tender, and the drippings are better when it's roasted. So all I'm going to do with this is just salt and pepper it. I'm not going to do anything fancy like putting any herbs or anything like that on it, because I just need this for the skin. And then obviously when we go to serve it, it's not like we're slicing it like, you know, you slice roasted chicken or turkey and you leave the skin on because it's crusty. We're getting rid of the skin. So we just want to salt and pepper it. And I'm going to cover this with foil. I'm going to bake it. It is now 11:38. And I'm going to bake this for, you know, 2-3 hours till it's done. And then I'm going to take it out so that it can cool. And then I can get to making my chicken broth. Alright, I'm getting ready to do my meatballs right now, and I've shown how to do meatballs before. Sometimes, you know, I tweak it up a little bit. For this, I have about 2 pounds of meat, 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat here. And I'm going to need about 3/4 of a cup of water. I have some crackers that I crushed up. It would probably be about maybe a cup. You can use breadcrumbs if you want to. When I make meatloaf, I make meatballs, anything that I do with ground beef, I always put beef bouillon in, and it's a teaspoon of beef bouillon per pound of meat. I just think it enhances the beef flavor. I have a teaspoon, little over a teaspoon of basil. I have 2 teaspoons of salt, because I do 1 teaspoon per pound of meat. Some black pepper crushed up, and then I have about 3 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. And so I'm using crackers instead of breadcrumbs, because I have some crackers I need to use up. And I do that sometimes and instead of using breadcrumbs, I just use crackers. I don't put an egg in or anything. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to put the water in because I like this to soak while I'm getting my meat out of the package. Okay, and so then I'm just going to mix my meat mixture up, and then I'm going to put some oil in a frying pan because I use lean meat, so you have to have some oil, and I'm going to start rolling these. Okay, my oil is still heating up. I have my bowl of meat here, and what I'm doing is I'm taking a pinch. You want to have small meatballs. You don't want big meatballs. You just want something, this is probably, I don't know, about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. It's really small. And that's what I'm going to do with all of this meat. Make sure small. I know some Italian friends back at home in Ohio, seriously, they make meatballs, I'm not kidding you. Like, let me show you this one. See how small that is? This is, it's about 2 pea sizes. They actually will make them smaller than that. They'll make them like the size of a pea, just teeny tiny. That's only some of my Italian friends. Most of my Italian friends, they make meatballs this size. You know, just bite size. Okay, so I cooked all my meatballs. I drained them on paper towels on my plate, and now I've put them back in the pan with some water because I'm steaming them. And the reason why is because, you know, when you make meatballs, they get browned on all the sides, yet they might not be cooked all the way thoroughly, all the way through the meatball. And that's when we just take it and throw it in our spaghetti sauce. If you're making spaghetti meatballs, let it cook in the sauce. You don't want to do that with this. These have to be cooked all the way through. Because you're going to put these meatballs in your wedding soup at the last minute just to, you know, get them heated through again. And the thing is, when you're making wedding soup, obviously it's like a chicken soup. It's based, you know, with the chicken broth. So the last thing that you want is, you know, the fat from the meat that didn't get cooked with the beef to get rendered into the chicken broth. You don't want that. You simply just want the chicken broth, no beef fat mixed with it at all. So that's why I'm steaming them as well, and they're just about done because you've got to get these cooked all the way through. Okay, the chicken is done roasting, and it's very steamy, but it's got to cool off. I've got 4 carrots, pretty large carrots. I've got those peeled and ready to slice. And then inside my pot here, you can see that's the chicken broth that I got, but you see how concentrated that is? So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my pan that still has some of the skin still stuck to it, but a little bit of residue still in here. I'm going to fill this up to get all of the chicken broth that's still remaining, that's still stuck to the sides of the pan and everything, and I'm going to dump it in here. Now I know somebody's probably going to ask, but how many cups of water is that? So I'm going to measure it out, and this is an approximate here. So you see how cloudy that is? It's not because the water's bad, that's just the residue of the rest of the chicken broth. And it's measuring 6 cups. So I'm going to dump that in there. And you can still see that that's pretty concentrated. So I'm going to put probably about another 12 cups of water. Okay, so I put 12 cups of water, additional. So the first 6 and then 12, obviously is 18 cups of water. And there was probably about a good 2 cups of concentrate. You know, the chicken broth concentrate that was at the bottom of my roasting pan, which is 20 cups. Now, if you use like a Dutch oven, that's like holds 20 cups. But by the time you put your meatballs in and your carrots and your chicken and everything, you're actually going to be spilling over. So that's why you need to have a good soup pot that you can make this in. So what I'm going to do now is I need to get some salt and pepper in here. Okay, so I just used my kosher salt, and I'm just going to do this. Grabbing about this much is probably a teaspoon each time. So that's about 2 teaspoons. And then we're going to put some black pepper. So I use onion powder, which I'll be doing that in a minute. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get my carrots cut up. And now that these are getting fatter, I'm going to have to do them one at a time. When I got the narrow ends, I can put them all together. And it actually goes a lot faster. One at a time. Okay, and here goes my onion powder. So I'm just going to put enough as if I was putting an onion in there. And this is what we've got so far. I'm going to give that a stir. I'm going to get it back on the stove, and it's going to have to simmer now for at least 20 minutes because we got to get the carrots all tenderized. Something else that I'm going to put into my soup is some garlic. And I've got, well, that one was the small clove. The first 2 that I chopped were, you know, pretty decent size. So I'm just going to dice all of this up, and instead of just throwing this into the soup, I am going to put it in a small fry pan and saute it. You can also saute your carrots and your onions, but I would normally do that if I was doing onions in my soup, but because my kids don't like it, I just throw the carrots in. And not all soups need garlic, but this soup, it should have it. So I'm going to take my garlic and put it in here. This next step, you need to either use endive or escroll. You can't find that, I don't think, in a lot of different grocery stores. It's a leafy vegetable, sort of like, you know, spinach or kale. You don't want to use kale because of the ribbing that's on there. It's real thick, and kale's bitter. Collard greens are bitter. Escroll, endive, they're a bit on the bitter side too. If you had to use any of those, it's really escroll or endive you're supposed to use. And the key is, when you get it from the store, you wash it, clean it really good. You need to cook that for about 5 minutes. You know, put some water in your pan and, you know, cook it like if you were cooking fresh spinach or whatever. And the reason why you want to do that, because when you go to drain that to get the liquid off of there, you're going to see all kinds of green liquid going down your sink. And if you were to just put the fresh endive or escroll in, you're actually going to change the color of your soup because that green will get into your soup. So we always just cooked ours ahead of time. Now, endive, escroll, it's a little bit on the bitter side. So what I use for my family, because they don't particularly like that very much, so I will be putting in spinach. Now, why am I using frozen spinach versus fresh spinach? You can put fresh spinach in if you like. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to tell you why I don't do it. Because fresh spinach, you know how they have like the long stems on them? And a lot of times the leaves, see, when they're making spinach like this, they're picking it and they're freezing it to bag it and sell it to stores. You're getting bigger leaves of spinach, okay? Yeah, there's still some stems in with it and everything, but you know what frozen spinach is like when you open the bag, okay? And it's all wilted and everything. But when we buy spinach, fresh spinach from the store, you're getting the smaller leaves and the longer stems. The thing is, for me, what I have found, sometimes when you're eating and those little leaves and stems going down your throat, they kind of get hung up in your throat a little bit. And personally, I don't want to choke when I'm eating. Now, it's one thing to eat fresh spinach, like if you have it in a salad or whatever. But I just find, you know, those little stems that's on little leaf spinach is very annoying to me. So, I could get fresh spinach, but then I'd have to cut all the stems off. So I have just found, you know what? You don't have to worry about cooking this ahead of time. No green. Well, the green really doesn't come out with the spinach. Endive and escarole, it does. And I don't have to worry about cutting off little stems off of fresh spinach or whatever. I just find it's easier to buy bagged spinach. So what I do when I open it, I just put it in a colander and I just kind of run some water over it, especially if there's any ice crystals. If you've had it out in your freezer for a while, you know, if ice crystals have formed. This is relatively fresh, but still I'll rinse it anyway and give it a good squeeze. I squeeze all the water out and then I will put this in the soup. This goes in the soup at the very last. When you're putting in the meatballs, when you're putting in the cut up chicken, you put in your spinach if it's frozen. Now, if, like I said, if you're using endive or whatever, you have to cook that ahead of time. It's cooked, so that still goes in at the last minute. But if you use fresh spinach, you're gonna have to put it in a little ahead of time before the chicken and the meatballs. The next thing we need to do is cook some pasta. Now, sometimes people will put in their soup, they'll put noodles, and they'll do like the thin noodles, like if you're doing chicken noodle soup. Sometimes they do the pasta. My sister-in-law does it this way, where she cooks the pasta, and these are these little bits like that. And you put it at the bottom of the bowl, and then put your soup on top of the pasta, which is what I'm gonna do. So we've got our water coming up almost to a boil. I'm gonna get this in and get the pasta cooked, and then we'll be ready to eat. So I thought that I would also show you. See, at the top you get all the spinach or endive, whatever that you use. You really won't be able to get a true visual here until you scoop down with a ladle. See? And then you bring it up, and there's your meatballs and your chicken and your carrots. And if you put onions in there, then you put onions. So that's the soup. Now we have to cook the pasta. Okay, and so this is what we need to do. I still leave water in my pasta, otherwise it's going to get all sticky and clumpy and everything. If you have like a slotted spoon or something like this, like you grab spaghetti up with, you just do this and let the water drain through. Just like that. And then do like a couple spoonfuls of pasta. I know it does go so much faster when you have the water drained out, but really, you can't drain it. Okay, so there you go. You fill the bottom with your pasta, and then you want to give it a little stir here and reach way down there, because you don't want to just keep grabbing all the spinach. And then you scoop some of that, and then we need liquid with it, don't we? Surely we do. This is how you do it. And then if you like Parmesan cheese, and we do, we top it with Parmesan cheese. So let me get a spoon here so you can see. So this is it. Wedding soup. So that's how I make mine. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.